Hello, welcome to the channel. I'm yet another crazy foreigner who has bought an Akiya in Japan. I literally just picked up the keys to this one yesterday afternoon. And I'll tell you why I chose it and where it is and all that kind of thing a bit later. First, let's have a bit of a tour. This is the main house, built in the early 60s. And this part over here was an extension done to it in about 1985. I think they added the tiles just to make it all match. It's got a traditional tiled roof, which thankfully seems to be in pretty good shape. There's no signs of obvious leaks. One interesting thing is it's got two front doors. It's the original one, and there's another one on the extended part of the house. One big selling point for me is it has a proper garage, which actually has an electric door. And this is the backyard, so to speak. The real estate agent suggested that we could remove half of this fence and concrete in here to make another car space, which I may do in future, but I don't need it yet. Yeah, they didn't make much of an effort to make it pretty at the back, unfortunately. You can see it's got one good feature up there, is an outdoor balcony, which I'll be making good use of. I'll just walk around the back here. Those stairs definitely need a bit of attention. And this here is a kerosene tank and an instant water heater, which is pretty old-fashioned now. I'll probably change that to either a gas or an electric instant heater, because the kerosene is a bit smelly. It does actually work okay though. And here's another little courtyard. A bit of undercover storage. And these are stairs up to that balcony, which also desperately needs some fresh paint. Anyway, you can actually walk all the way around the house and back out the front there. I need to fix up the shutters there and replace the clear panels on the balcony. But otherwise, there's not really anything that desperately needs repairing. You always need somewhere to keep your bamboo poles. Some of this timber's suffering a bit, but it's not very exposed here because there's only about a 5-inch gap between my roof and the neighbour's. It's got some nice features on the entryway. Little crane up there. Yes. Anyway, let's go inside. Very big ginkan here. And a parquetry floor, which I'm hoping I can sand back and re-lacquer. On the left, got a 4.5 tatami room. These tatamis actually aren't too bad, except for where there's been furniture in the corner. There was a doorway here that's been blocked off because I think the previous owners at some point split this into two houses, probably so their kids could live next door. And that's the aircon that looks new enough that it might work, but we cannot find a remote for it. And this, I think, is the only LED light in the house. All of the others are older. We're finding aerial connections all over the house. They must have had a number of TVs. And they've got all of the kids' heights all the time they owned the house. It was one family owned the house right through from the 60s. On the right here there's another 4.5 tatami room. These tatami are probably a bit worse condition. And stairs here to the second level. Have a look around in here first though. Great big storage cupboards as you usually get in the older houses. You're keeping all your futons and all that sort of stuff. Oh, there's a mirror. The sliding doors are all functional, but naturally they've all got some marks on them. And this I suppose you'd call the lounge. Very old aircon up there. Again, the tatami aren't terrible, but they are quite old. This I saw in photos is where they had the family shrine. Nice door decorations in this room. And another not very useful space. There's a mixture of wall finishes, but mostly this stuff that feels like concrete but isn't. And out here there's a engawa. Just needs some refinishing. That's that courtyard we saw earlier. Here's the sink, which goes with the original toilet, which is, yes, that type of toilet. There's a door here, which I think used to be the rear entry, but then they've brought up the height of the floor to match the rest of this. So it's not really a useful door anymore. And that's the hallway through from the first front door. And in here is the kitchen dining, which we have a couch in for no particular reason. As you can see, the flooring is hilarious. It's not the original floor. I found a spot where I found other vinyl tiles underneath it. The actual kitchen unit was dirty. We've cleaned it up as well as we could, and it's quite usable now. It's got an induction stove that works well. Great big sink. And we've started cleaning up the pantry to put things in it. There's another little pantry area over here. The wallpaper is really dirty. But actually this isn't wallpaper, these are panels that are nailed on, which already have that finish on them. I'm going to investigate whether I can just go over the top of them with modern wallpaper. And here there's actually a dedicated laundry space, which is fairly rare in a Japanese house. They normally hide a washing machine in the corner or stick it outside, but yeah, that's the drain for a washing machine there, with the water and power. Probably not enough power to run a dryer. You'd have to run a higher voltage line for that. And in here is the main bathroom with the usual hilarious combination of pink and blue, and lovely Mount Fuji sort of a scene there. Again, it's actually in usable condition. In the short term, I'm just going to fix up the silicone and things like that. Save a proper reno for later on. And this is the back door. which opens out into that covered area we saw a minute ago. Good bit of storage here for things that aren't too valuable. So this too obviously is an extension. So you have the steel frame with concrete floor above it, and this seems to have been made out of concrete blocks as well. So originally the house would have just come to here and the roof would have come down there. So I'll head upstairs to show you the rest of the original house. These railings were added on probably because the residents were elderly. They're only slightly safer than nothing. Very steep staircase as usual. The neighbourhood's all similar age houses for the most part. You can see the mountains at the back there, behind Hashimoto. That's where we are, Hashimoto, in Wakayama. So there's a big landing here, which gives you access to 3 rooms. Nice concrete block holding the door open. This is a 6 tatami room. There's a big storage cupboard there. Can't get this light to work. And more storage here. One way to make your rooms bigger in Japan, if you want to, is get rid of some of the storage and not worry about your room not being square. Anyway, sliding doors lead into another room, which is only partly tatami and the rest timber floor. And that's mostly because this window here is also a door. And that leads out onto this balcony, which, as you can see, needs a bit of refinishing. Out here you can see more of the Hashimoto suburbs and the mountains that surround us here. All of the steel here is solid but needs refinishing. The gutters all seem to be quite decent. A little bit of rust here and there, but no holes. And here you can see how they joined on the extension. I'm thinking there's probably a lot of storage space in that roof under there. And there's a tile I need to fix. Anyway, back inside. And in here is the only Western style room in the house, complete with a pretty amusing light, kind of a spaceship style. And the floor seems to be sort of faux parquetry tiles, which I could probably just run vinyl straight over the top of to freshen them up. And I'll bring the wallpaper forward about 4 decades, along with the curtains. So that's it for upstairs. Next I'll show you the extension. So a little doorway passageway through here joins the old house to the new extension. We've got a 6 tatami room where we camped on the floor last night. Although actually this is just normal sleeping in Japan. We bought a couple of futons and a mat. Brought some bedding from home. Another 4.5 tatami room here. Another aircon that looks like it might be too old to work. An exhaust fan. And that's that blocked off doorway we saw. I found at least 3 different doorbells, none of which work. And this light fitting was here, but the cord is too short to reach properly to the power point, so that's interesting. It does work for now. And this is another doorway into that second entryway, which is here. Again, this flooring can hopefully be restored, but if not, just replaced. The Genkan's a lot smaller here, but still big enough. And this is the garage, which is quite large actually. Room for most types of cars. If you had a really long car, get rid of that shelf, I guess. Bit of free artwork. And in here, at some point, they had a kitchen. As you can tell by that stainless splashback and the taps. As I said, it seems like there was a separate family dwelling here. There's a drain there for the sink. And in here, another fairly dated vanity and some interesting tiling. But it does at least have a Western toilet, which was something of a selling point. The vacuum was actually here too, so that was handy. And that is it for the extension. Basically just 2 rooms, garage, and that extra toilet and kitchen space. There's those stairs we saw earlier, which are quite dodgy. So you're probably keen to know what I paid. This house was 2.5 million yen, which is about $26,000 Australian, probably about 15,000 US roughly. On top of that, there was 330,000 yen for the agent fees. There was taxes of about 17,000 yen, I think, and a few other small administrative charges. Other things I had to pay for though was judicial scrivener to verify my signature and identity. I also had to send a notarized affidavit about my home address in Australia, and I had to get a notarized copy of my passport when I was arranging the purchase. And those are all things that are pretty hard to do as a foreigner, but luckily I have a good friend over here in Japan who helped me with all of it. So when we were about halfway through purchasing this house, the agent mentioned that he had a couple of other properties nearby that we might want to look at. I didn't really need any more houses, that's for sure, but it turned out that they were right next door. So I thought, well, I better have a look at them. And as it turned out, I bought both of them. So I'll have another couple of house tours for you very soon. I did say I'd talk about why I chose this area, this house. I was looking for somewhere that was close to Kansai Airport, and a lot of Wakayama is within about an hour of the airport, but it's still a fairly quiet countryside sort of area, which is what I was after. And Hashimoto in particular is a fair way inland, but it has a fast rail link from here to Osaka, or Namba to be specific, which only takes about 42 minutes. So that is a big bonus for people who want to travel around here or work in Osaka and live outside the city. We're also very close to Mount Koya, or Koya-san, which is a very famous Buddhist temple pilgrimage. There are a number of temples up there and other important Buddhist things that people come from around the world to see. So that gives this house a potential to be an Airbnb at some point, assuming I do a good job of renovating it. Perhaps most importantly, it's a lot easier to find a fairly cheap Akiya out here than anywhere else around Kansai Airport. Most of Osaka is quite expensive. Hyogo Prefecture is getting a bit too far away, as is Kyoto, but Kyoto also is not as cheap as it is here. If you have any questions about this area, I'll answer them as well as I can. And I'll be back soon with the next chapter. Cheers.